Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 35 of Cloud Conversations. My name is Peter Rising, and I am joined on this episode by my wonderful co-host, Kat Greenan. How are you today, Kat? Are you keeping well?
Hi, I am very, very well. It's actually my birthday this weekend, so I have a
Oh,
short
yeah.
week, and I'm going out in London with all my friends. Going out, I'm actually
Amazing.
turning 30, so I'm planning to
Mm,
leave my 20s with a bang. So I'm very excited. But yeah, how are you? How are you doing?
great, yeah. I mean, the days are getting shorter and darker, which, like you, I think I quite like that. I quite like the dark nights and the dark mornings, but it does make me more tired. But I think that's maybe just age.
Yeah,
But
I'm
it
like,
is what
yeah,
it
yeah.
is. Well, you'll have to
Amazing.
start ticking a different box now in all these online
Yeah,
forms.
it's just
You're in a
getting
whole new
longer, the
decade now.
scroll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
The
goodness, don't
starts getting
remind
further to go
me.
back.
That's it,
But yeah,
that's it.
all good, all good. But happy
Wonderful,
birthday
wonderful.
for the weekend. I hope you have a fantastic time. I'm sure
Thank
you
you
will.
very much. Thank you. I'll try. But I do have the wonderful pleasure of introducing our guest this week, Lesley Crook, who is, the list goes on really with the amount of accomplishments that you have. A 5-time MVP, adoption and change management professional, blogger, conference speaker. I know you've recently started a new role as well, which is really exciting, which I wouldn't mind talking about. But before I kind of butcher that anymore, would you be able to say hello to our viewers, give a little bit of introduction to yourself and what you do, Lesley?
Yes, thank you so much. The list of accomplishments, it's still kind of like, oh, have
You're
I
like, da, da,
done
da.
that much against the
Mhm.
MVP, what I hear of the MVP community. So anyway, I checked out your Cloud Conversations YouTube site in the last couple of days, and I was like, oh my word, I just such a privilege and delighted to be invited to join such a prestigious group of people. So thank you very much for thinking of me. And Kat, we met at the South Coast Summit at the end of the summer on the most beautiful blue sky day at the cricket ground in Southampton. It was absolutely amazing. And Peter, we haven't met before, but we're meeting virtually now. So it's
Yeah.
it's great to meet you all. Thank you so very much.
No,
Oh,
it's
you're
great
so
for you
welcome.
to be here, definitely. So would you mind just giving us a little bit of an update in terms of what you've been up to recently? So I know you've moved to a new role and your main focus is really on adoption and change management. Would you mind talking us a little bit about your career, how it's changed, as the technology has changed?
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah, so just skip back to about 5-6 years ago. I'm getting a little bit of background feedback though. I don't know what's
I'll
from my phone.
mute.
Okay, thank you. So 6 years ago, I was at GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, in working there in the Brentford office in London. Communications manager, been doing that for quite a few years. And then Yammer came along, started kind of just pushing through the glass walls there. And I got really interested in it. I'd already been using Facebook for a couple of years, and it got introduced by some graduates as a disruptive technology, just to see what it might do with some other similar networking collaborative tools at the time. They just wanted to just experiment, and it started to get bigger and bigger in the IT area, and it got introduced to me by some IT folks that I was working with. So I worked in communications. I worked in communications team. It wasn't known as employee engagement back then or employee experience. It was the comms team. So I just kind of got, this looks really interesting. It looks new. I'm sick to death of emailing. I was email queen of distribution lists and newsletters in the team, and started to get involved in the network. And then before I knew it, I don't know, about 18 months or so went past, I became more of a champion on the network. And Yammer was then brought out by Microsoft. I started to go along to their Shoreditch office, meeting the customer success managers, got really close to some of them. They were really giving us loads of great advice about how to use Yammer. I was working as the comms business partner with the IT team. Only a very small team group of us. Wasn't really in my official role, but it just started to get bigger and bigger, and so did the network. And kind of time went on, and we got to a tipping point where the company was really using Yammer, and it became kind of like part of the culture. And I was told by my boss in comms, look, it ain't broke. We've got other things we want you to do or to focus, back on. And I'm like, oh, I'm really not interested in this anymore. I want to help other companies to use this new way of working, this better way of working. The other thing that really made a difference at that time was I was being trained on Lean Sigma, Six Sigma. I was very much involved prior to being in the comms team, working in manufacturing, and it's all about speeding up the production lines and helping them to cut out wasteful ways of working. And I saw the wasteful way of working was using email, and in trying to help manufacturing and the other parts of the business, R&D and the sales force and the corporate support functions to use Yammer in the best way that they possibly could. So I ended up leaving the company, which was a shock for everyone because I was there like 20 years. It was a massive shock on many levels, but I just thought there is more to do in this space. So I had kind of like my Six Sigma certificate as a green belt. I had this new knowledge about Yammer, so I left thinking I could go and help other companies. I didn't get work for about 2 years. It was awful. Wow. It really was awful because I was, as others have told me, recruiters have said to me at the time, you're too soon. Give it about 2 years and it will be, you are right in what you're saying. And, what I started doing presentations, really scared and everything, going into like the comms conferences like Simply Communicate and other different conferences out there, and trying to explain what we've done at GSK, the success stories that I'd helped capture with the IT guys, was about 10 of them, and really embedding myself in the Yammer community with other customers, with other Yammer ambassadors or whatever you want to call them from other companies. And we've still, it's about 20 of us really, quite a few of them have ended up as MVPs. There's quite a tight little network of us. But I had to kind of just wait, give lots of coffee chats, give away my ideas and thinking for free, and just be patient and wait. And I just thought, there's times I thought I'm never going to work again, but slowly but surely, it started to get traction with other companies, and I got my MVP award for the effort that I put into at GSK. So that was that's how I got into the MVP award program. But that was quite difficult as well at the beginning because I'd go along to some of the meetups, and I talked to mostly the guys. And they'd go, oh, hello, new MVP lady, sort of thing. What have you got your MVP award? And I say, Yammer. And they'd be like, oh, we don't use it. And they were like, it's not really for us. And they'd just like walk off and leave me standing there. And I'm thinking, how on earth have I got here? So it was quite a difficult time going back about 5 years ago. I'm like thinking, what on earth am I doing here? I really don't fit. But time went on, and then Teams was kind of landed. Yammer was now getting pushed out, feeling like the poor relation. We had this saying flying round with some MVPs saying, not going to mention who it was, but Yammer is dead.
No, Yammer's not dead.
Oh yeah, but it was like a big kind of thing when we went to the MVP summit, and it was like, Yammer's dead, Teams is coming in, all these new tools, and Yammer, it's not needed anymore. Anyway, so I ended up on the Teams pathway, joined my first Microsoft partner, and then started to kind of get in with Teams. But all the time I would revert back to kind of Yammer has got a special kind of way and a more dynamic way of for having conversations, and it is just about conversations, where Teams is more about the documentation and the meetings around it. And now you've got all these apps that are available as well. But Yammer is purely about conversations, and the conversations flow very, very nicely in Yammer, where they're quite stilted in conversations. It's a bit more like how you would use chat, really, I suppose, in Teams. It just flows better. And Microsoft have listened, and they've added in features that I think are in Yammer, like reply to a conversation, so it flows more easily, because before it was kind of like you'd have someone talking here, then you talk here, and you lose track of what the conversation was originally about. But there's just something about the way Yammer is built that it's far better for having conversations. So and also for capturing kind of like the use of hashtags, or then they ended up being called topics. So there's just these things where Yammer is just very nice, and the mobile app has always worked very well. So, but all the time I started kind of like shifting away from Yammer and getting into the team space. Went on and moved probably into another partner by then. Ended up becoming training to use, helping organisations to train to use Microsoft Teams. We went into the pandemic situation 2 years ago, and then suddenly we're all working from home. And then this whole idea of what I was actually really saying when I first went out as a consultant on my own, which was too soon, suddenly sprang forward about 5 years in about 2 years. And we're all now working in this hybrid space, in this, working from home and working from anywhere. And that early way of kind of out of email, collaborating more, is now becoming a more natural dynamic of how we get our work done. But I was just too soon 5 years ago. So, but I never dreamed, or my wildest nightmares wished, that I would end up becoming, getting the job that I've got now, because of the situation we've ended up with a horrible pandemic situation. So it was quite frightening to think that I was wishing something and then it came round in the most horrific way. So I've got no more way around Teams. The company I was working at before, Simity, introduced me to Microsoft Team Rooms, the devices, so I stepped into kind of like another space of Teams, which I hadn't had any experience of that before. I was only about the collaboration side of Teams and using chat and channels. I wasn't aware of all this other expertise for Microsoft Team Rooms, and they've become huge now that there's the offering for companies to have their old office, their old meeting rooms refurbished into Microsoft Team Rooms, and then there's all the equipment around it and everything. So I've learned a lot about this other space, and there's also the idea of using call centres and help desks for Teams, and the transition of Skype being decommissioned, and then Teams eating that up and giving them so much more than they had in Skype, which was just meetings, calls and chat. And now they've got this ecosystem of collaboration and Viva. So that takes us on to the area that I'm in now. So I've moved from Simity because they really wanted to focus on Microsoft Teams, call centres. And so I made the switch the last 2 weeks to Cloudway. And my focus is around adoption, maybe some Yammer adoption as well, and change management, working with Maretta there. But the real focus is to help drive the adoption of the 4, and now coming in spring, the 5 modules of Viva.
Amazing. There's a lot to unpack there. I think it's interesting when you say people are saying Yammer is dead, because I have heard that as well. I hear it from both technical people in the field. They're always technical, technical guys who never like Yammer. Because I work in work, it's typically an IT director, an IT manager that you're speaking to. You're trying to sell Yammer to the wrong audience in that case, and a lot of them. Now I get the objection of, we've got an organization-wide team where we have conversations. Why would we need Yammer as well? How does it work together? And I have this slide that I always show, which is the inner loop and the outer loop. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a Microsoft slide. And I always whip it out and I'm like, right, this is how everything comes together. But how would you handle that objection? You know, we've got Teams. Why would we use Yammer?
Yeah, I mean, it always, that slide was just like such an epiphany moment when they shared that. First of all, I don't know if it was Ignite about 3-4 years ago, and at the it's called Where to Start a Conversation, and it's at the center you've got SharePoint and your files, and then either side you've got Teams, and then you've got Yammer. And I had a similar model way back when I first came out as to go out on my own as a consultant, and it started from something called Working Out Loud, which is a movement or a kind of a philosophy. There's it's quite well written up if you search for it on the internet, and there's lots of lovely animations that have been made by companies that are using this kind of like philosophy. But it's just sharing your work with a view that others might find it helpful and others might help you improve your work. So it's kind of like this virtuous, reciprocal, lovely circle. And that's what that whole model is about, where to start a conversation. But it's directing it in the right way. So on the left, it's Teams, where you are working with people that you know kind of like day in, day out, that you're working on kind of like projects. It's the strategic side of the company. It's the business strategy side of the company. But then on the other side, you've got Yammer, where you're having more fluid conversations and you're reaching out to people that you don't already know. And that's where this lovely word. So I have this, the working out loud is my go-to phrase all the time. And then I always like serendipity, because that's where the magic happens, or that's where it originally started to happen in Yammer, because you're going to be putting ideas out there that may be not fully baked. You're sharing some pictures, you might be sharing some video. You can do it far more, loosely in Yammer than you can do it in Teams, because Teams is kind of like quite structured, and it's where you're working with people as part of usually a project team. But usually in Yammer, it's something like more of a company initiative that is a bit more social. It's more that's kind of Yammer, it's like a social network, where Teams is where you're going to be talking about documents and you're going to be having meetings. But you can't do that really in Yammer. You can have some kind of like town hall meetings and big set pieces like that, but that's kind of like the difference is. And you can do kind of like more, you of course set up a team around a social event, but really, if you're going to do like a Macmillan Bake Off, or you're going to do some charity effort, you want it to be much wider than a small team of people. So that's when you can have, a real groundswell of bringing people together. You can do that on Yammer, and it's just a better environment, a better platform to do more kind of like a social, more social than business related kind of ways of bringing a company together. It's better for employee engagement.
Definitely. I think they both have different use cases depending on what you're trying to achieve.
But they
cross over.
Yeah, and it's so nice when we suddenly saw that you can bring Yammer into Teams and you can bring SharePoint into Teams. And this was kind of like that first opening up of, using Teams as that lens to bring other applications in. And that's exactly now what's Viva doing. And the fact that Yammer is in Viva Connections. And that's kind of like, we were right. It's not dead. So
I've been a Yammer critic in the past. For much of my time with Microsoft 365, I've not got it. And I'm so sorry I've said those words myself. I've said, when on Microsoft, surely they're going to kill off Yammer. What's it for? But now
You're the culprit.
I'm one of the culprits. I just didn't get it. I didn't see what it was for anymore, especially with Teams exploding the way it did. But I'm actually now I've recently changed jobs as well. I'm working for an organization that is the first organization I've ever seen who are using Yammer properly, and the penny dropped. They just went, okay, this is what I should be doing with it. And it's honestly, it's completely changed my opinion of it. It really has. I was the least likely person you would ever imagine would have an about turn on Yammer. I wanted it gone. I was just what the heck's this for? But now I get it finally. So, but
There's
you were ahead of
actually,
the curve, weren't you? With
well,
your journey, you were 2 years ahead of your time. So
I know, and it was really scary, but I'm glad I documented so many stories at the time, and that I learned that we curated from GSK, and we put them out there as hashtag Yammer Magic, and it ended up some other people like me and other companies started to use that kind of hashtag on social media. So yeah, Yammer Magic is still out there, and we were using in GSK the hashtag Yammer Solved, which was like, it was so, that's the other thing about Yammer as well, that the hashtags work really well, and it's frustrating that you can't do that in Teams. But they are introducing, but the fact that they're bringing in topics, that's probably the reason why they couldn't say that we were going to use hashtags in Teams, because it's similar to what Yammer called topics. If you see what I mean, if you look, the hashtags in Yammer are actually called topics, and this is quite confusing with the branding of it. And then they were bringing in Viva topics, so I think that, I don't know how long Viva topics was going on in the background, but that's why they were trying to differentiate that. Tags in Yammer are actually topics, so it's just got quite confusing, and hashtags and but what the nice thing about with Yammer is that you can filter by the hashtags or topics, and then if you click on those or select that word as a hashtag, then it brings back everywhere that particular subject was mentioned. And I was particularly hot on that at the time I was leaving GSK, and I talked about it a lot, about the importance of tagging like that, because that brings back the business benefit of the rich conversations that were going on across the company using that filtering system. And I was encouraging people to use hashtags which were around the key kind of like the key result areas within the organization, and what people were being measured on as part of their personal development. And then if they were to when they're writing comments and posts, if they were to mention those particular hashtags and topics, then it's easy for them to pull it back at the end of the year to see where they were actually supporting the top line or the bottom line in the company around the work they were doing at a particular time. And that really interests me now, if I think that, like, where we are going forward with Viva is that they're introducing ally.io, and that's bringing in how to align key results with personal development. So I don't know how it works. It's a company that's been out there for a while. I had a look at it, but I really found it interesting that that's what I was trying to do back 5-6 years ago, trying to show how a social network like that can align to the strategies of the company, just merely by the fact that people are mentioning it in their posts as they are in the flow of their work, as that new phrase that has come from Microsoft recently. And because they're tagging in Yammer, it's picking it up, that's a key area for the company, a key strategy and an objective, and they can look back on that, a couple of months later and see who's actually been talking about them. So I'm interested to see how that's going to work when that actually becomes a reality in I think in the springtime next year.
Yeah, I think whenever I speak to customers, the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges they have, is knowledge management. And when an organization moves to Microsoft 365, their users are complaining about the fact that there's no day in the life of all of these tools. There's, we use sometimes OneDrive. If I need to find something, I'm searching 5 different things. I'm searching Teams, I'm searching the SharePoint site separated from the Teams site, I'm searching Yammer, I'm searching OneDrive, my emails, chats. It could be a little bit overwhelming. So I think bringing these tools in, like topics and the different elements of Viva, just help that it's all going to be in one place for you. Just look in Teams and search
topics,
the search.
Topics particularly, especially
Definitely.
if you're new in the company, that's going to be so powerful. But I think it's the fact of, if you've been in the company, it kind of works at both ends of an employee's life cycle in a company, the coming in and then the leaving, that you've been there, like I was at GSK for so long, but to be able to leave kind of like your tacit knowledge in a trail as a topic expert, subject matter expert on a particular topic. So it's there for the new hires to get a grip on the acronyms and projects that are going on in the company, but equally for someone that's about to retire or move on to another company, they might have been there maybe just a couple of years, but to be able to document what they've been working on through the topic center is going to be, I think it's going to be a really brilliant thing to do in a big organization or a small organization that's still got really valuable content.
I do so hate acronyms, I really do.
I feel like people would just start making them up now, and like create an acronym for the sake of it. It's like, the word's not that long, just say the word. Help us all out. But so we wanted to do something a little bit different on this show, which is in talking about the day in the life and Viva coming out. I guess the tools that we've just mentioned, there's Viva, there's all the different modules of Viva. There's Teams, there's Yammer, there's SharePoint, all of these tools that, and OneDrive even as well. I mean, all of these tools that users have access to, they do different things, but also work together to bring kind of one big collaboration solution. And I know that you have a kind of a really great way of just positioning all of those tools in like a day in the life. So what I thought it would be good to do now, since we're on the topic, is I think this is going to be so useful. So, if you're watching this episode, don't turn it off now because you're just ready to get to the good stuff. But if you would be able to maybe run through that day in the life of Teams and Viva and how they fit together. And for those who are watching who maybe, don't know too much about Viva or how it can help them, this, might change that. So Leslie, I don't know if you'd mind jumping in.
So this is really, I just wrote this really quickly last week. It came to me just as at the end of coming back from a dog walk, walking my dogs, and I was just like, and then it was like, and I wrote it in like just really quickly an hour. So but some of this that I'll run through doesn't actually exist yet. It's still visionary. So, and I have to say at the end of it, like, which bit doesn't exist yet, sort of thing. So, because it's just things that they've just announced at Ignite that I'm guessing that work this way. So anyway, this is my productive and satisfying day with Viva on Teams. So first off, I start the day and I have my breakfast with my phone. I'm in the kitchen and I get my Viva briefing email, which I read, as I said, from my phone, and that's pulling from Outlook. So that's pulling from my meetings and from my email, and that's kind of like showing me what's coming up for the day, and it sets the scene for me. Then I go off and I get dressed, and then I come up into my loft here, and I sit in front of my desktop computer, and I move on to the Teams on the desktop, and then I'm going to join a quick brainstorming session, which is actually on a whiteboard, but I had a really bad night's sleep last night, so I'm going to from my camera, I'm going to switch on my mesh avatar, so you don't have to see me looking really, really tired and a little bit stressed. So
I think that's such a good use case for it. When it was announced, I was like, does that not defeat the point? Why would we use it? And I just think. And it helps with mental health as well. You don't feel the pressure of having to do your makeup and hair, and oh god, you want to look a little bit rough, but still
hair
be
active.
Perfectly groomed as always, Peter, always. But I just think it's.
It sounds really good. So that's the one that doesn't exist yet. So hopefully us MVPs, we're hoping that we're going to have a little trial of that at some point. But from my new role at Cloudway, I've been introduced to hashtag of digital wellbeing, and that really is, I think, as you said, Kat, that's really going to be helpful, especially for us ladies that just sit to death of putting a bit of makeup on for just an hour and then we take it all off again. It's like, but yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to have little avatars. I didn't see the point of it at first, but then my new Viva buddy, MVP Sarah Fenner, she basically kind of explains, oh, this is what I think it's going to do, because I just thought, oh God, is it going to be a bit like a HoloLens experience thing, which I'm really not interested in. But I think it'd just be fun to have a little, your own little avatar that reacts, you know, to, you know, eye movements. And if you put your hands up or something like that, I think it'd be, you know, shrug your shoulders or something like that. I think it'll work really well in a just a Teams meeting situation. So after I finish my meeting, I then am going to send praise to one of my colleagues that just was absolutely brilliant, helping me out with something yesterday. So I actually wrote a little blog about praise today, because you can do it in 3 ways. You can use Yammer, and you can use send praise in a Teams channel, just a tiny little icon along the bottom. Not everyone knows that's there. And then it's also now in Viva Personal Insights. It's kind of got a much bigger positioning now. If you go into Viva Insights, if you have it switched on in your company, you can send praise there. So I send a little praise, pick one of the little icons, and I send that off to my colleague. Then I'm collaborating with a colleague on a presentation in the coming weeks. So I open my presentation, and there's an acronym there that she's put in, because I haven't been in the company very long. She's added an acronym. So I hover over the acronym in the flow of my work, and up pops the topics panel on the right hand side, and that gives me all the information about that particular acronym, which is really, really useful. So I don't have to bother her, because she's in the States. She won't be up for 5 hours. So then I've got a good understanding of what that is all about, so I can carry on adding my my work to into her work. So it's now lunchtime. Had a great morning, and I'm now going to go and walk my dogs. I live in Brighton, so I'm going to go onto the South Downs, and I'm going to walk the 2 dogs, and I'm going to put on my Headspace meditation app, and that's accessed again through Viva Insights. I'm using a Teams certified device, and to make sure I get the best experience. So then I come back, I've had some lunch, and I go back to work. And when I get back to my desk, my line manager has sent me an invite to some learning, to a little learning course that he'd like me to do, and the rest of the team. And he's shared that in chat with me, actually shared it in conversations in Teams, so that we can all get it. And he said it's not urgent, but he'd like us to do that within the next week. So I book that into some focus time, which I can plan to do through Viva, my personal insights. And so I'm going to plan that in when I'm not so busy next week. So then I join another meeting, and this is where I'm going to share my screen with my colleagues. We're doing a project update, and we're looking at Planner, and that opens up from one of our teams that we've got around some customer work that we are all working on. Then I finish that short 20-minute really focused meeting that we have every week at the same time, and I need to do some expenses. So now I go back, I'm still on Teams, I haven't moved away from it. I go onto back onto into the left rail, and I now go into Viva Connections, and in there I've got in my personalized dashboard excuse me, the expenses app, and I can go in there and quickly do some expenses. And then that took me about 5 minutes. So I still haven't moved away from Teams. Then I'm going to make a quick cup of tea. So then I go down, just take my phone, and I go downstairs, and I'm now going to go into the company news on Conversations. And there I can see couple of things. There's an update about, as I said earlier, I mentioned that in our particular company, there's an initiative to refurbish some of the old meeting rooms, and they're upgrading them to Microsoft Team rooms. So there is more information about this. They set up a Yammer community. So from the Viva Connections, from that particular site, I can go into the Yammer conversations about the MTR meeting rooms, and that's where I volunteer to my services, because I'm really keen to find out about the new equipment that we can use in there, which is mostly kind of like you don't touch the equipment, which is really great. And what is also there is a nice video which is hosted on stream, which tells us all about how the new meeting room equipment works, and that's kind of like just 2 minutes long. So then it's now it's coming towards the end of the day, and I now get 2 notifications in Teams. The first one is to reflect on how my day's gone. So again, that's in my personal insights. No one else will see that. It's just for me to reflect on how my day has gone, and I can choose from, I think it's 5 different little emoticons that go from happy, smiley, right down to being really sad. So of course I picked my really smiley one. I've had a really good day. And then I go into the next notification I get is the virtual commute. And this is where it's time to wrap up and just kind of like start to tidy up and look to see what I haven't finished for the day and what's going to be coming up for the next day. And if there's any tasks there I can quickly finish. I might have a couple of emails that I might need to send to maybe some external people that I haven't quite finished yet that I promised to do. So it's time to wrap up my day with my virtual commute. Then that's, I think, yeah. So that the nice thing about that as well is that I have also set my my hours on quiet days, because I work with people that are based all around the world, and they will want to continue. The people in the States will want to continue working on for at least 5 hours, and they will, you don't want to interrupt them. Sometimes you're writing an email and you're working on something, or as I've already said, you might be collaborating on a PowerPoint presentation together. They might be adding stuff, mentioning in the comments. But I put my quiet time on so that I will only get those notifications when I log back on at 9 o'clock the next day. But and I know that once my day is finished in my time in the UK, I'm not going to be interrupted again. But they can carry on in the flow of their work, and they're going to be, they won't have to feel like that they can't send an email or something like that because it's going to interrupt anyone. And I think that is such a brilliant thing that's been in, a feature that's been introduced, that you can carry on working in your normal way, but others are not going to get interrupted. And it's personal preference to you how you set your day, and as we're working from home. So so that's kind of like my little day in a nutshell. And there's a lot there that you can't, well, there's a lot there you can do, but there are some things there that we're waiting on. I think, as I said, the interesting ones are Mesh, and I didn't even touch upon Loop because I don't even understand that yet. So, but there's Loop coming up as well, which I thought is that similar to Topics, but I understand it's not. So we'll wait and see what that one's going to bring us. So.
Lots of new stuff coming out. But just touching on, I think that's so useful to just see. I think A Day in the Life just does it. It just shows the realistic view, and it's come from your own experience as well, which is great. And I think that just shows how useful the technology can be when it's used properly and the right way. So there's a couple of things I wanted to ask throughout that. So the last thing that you mentioned is quite funny, the turning off the notifications, so putting your quiet hours on. And I do that just because we don't have anybody working in the States, but we do have people who like to work quite late.
Yeah.
So I might get an 11 p.m. message on Teams, and of course they don't expect me to reply there and then, but sometimes you do feel like, oh gosh,
yeah,
I've got to reply, and you feel like you're always on. So it just feeds back into that mental health thing as well.
Or you can't
switching off.
It's kind of like, but sometimes you do, I still do it, and I see messages come in and you're like, oh yeah, I really want to reply, and then you're like, oh but no. Yeah, because you just shouldn't really at that time of night, but it's, it just pulls you back in again, doesn't it, sort of thing. And equally it starts playing on your mind when you go to bed, that even though you haven't responded, you started thinking about something you really didn't even need to think about yet. It's in a way you do need to hold back.
Definitely. What on the praise as well? So I was going to ask before you mentioned about the praise, because I know there is there are different options for Praise, and in my organization, so we were long-term users of Yammer. So we used Yammer and SharePoint, and then obviously when Teams came in, we started using Teams. So we use all the three tools together, but we keep our Praise in Yammer because that's where it lived before Teams.
Yeah.
So we've got Praise a colleague, living the values, and so on. And it's quite nice because you get recognition, and we do a shout out at the end of the week. But you could do it in Teams. Some people do that just as a laugh. It's not really taken seriously. And then Viva as well. No one's delved into that. I think that's even quite new for people that I work with. So it's
Love that.
delved. My proper English. Getting the Office 365 apps in there. But I do that on purpose. So my question is, to get to the point, is that are there different use cases for the different ways to praise, or is it just in our situation where we use Yammer, so we're continue to use Yammer, personal preference? Is that how you see praise? Because I do get asked, is like, why, are they different in any way? I was like, well, they send a message in the different tool, but
no, I think
they'll do the praise.
Well, the way it seems to me, it started in Yammer. It looks very similar. I think the icons are near enough exactly the same.
Yeah.
The praise feature started in Yammer, and they've introduced that into Teams, and now they've introduced it into Viva. And I think, the back end of the Teams praise and the Viva praise, it's exactly the same. It's just, it's just a different way of getting to it, sort of thing. So no, I mean, just use praise. Why just share the love? Just don't think about it too hard. Just get on and praise people. It's a lovely thing to do.
It is. I don't think I'd be drawn to a particular method either. I mean, I gave praise just a few days ago using Teams, but if I find myself in Yammer and it comes to me, I'll just do it there, or so I don't think I'll spend too much time thinking about it. But some of those features that you described in your day in the life there, though, Lesley, absolutely resonate with me. I'm already using some of them, not all of them. You've given me some ideas. I use the virtual commute. That really, really helps me. I've not set up my quiet hours, and I really should, because I'm a real culprit for Voop. Oh, I really want to look at that, but I know I shouldn't. And and then you get drawn in, as you say. So that's a good one. I must do that. And the acronym one is so good for someone like me who just really struggles with them. And quite often, my old brain, I forget as well. I'll ask someone. I think in the company I've been at now for the last couple of months, CPS, I think I've asked somebody 3 times now what a particular acronym is, and it's just not sinking in for some reason. So I must make a note of it.
There's one thing that I spotted. It's on if you have a PowerPoint document open and you've got some text on there, and you hover over a particular word, it opens up the right pane and it takes you off to Bing. And I think some internal documents. It works a little. Okay. Yeah, give it a go. And I saw it about, 4 or 5 months ago. I was preparing a PowerPoint presentation, and I clicked on a word, and this bright pane opened up where, you kind of like get prompts to how to design a document. But it's very much like how I imagine topics will be working. It's going off and searching the internet and some documents internally. It's not giving you this, obviously, subject matter experts or anything like that, but I was really surprised to see that is already there. The
technology is there. It's just evolving, isn't it?
Yeah. Another way to drive people to Bing as well, which will
I know.
You mentioned Bing, you think of Microsoft Search, which makes you think of the delightful friend and colleague Kevin McDonnell, Mr. Microsoft Search. So
goodness me. But that was so useful. I think just having the view in it's definitely from even a business perspective as well, to how is this going to benefit your users day to day? How do the tools work together? Because we've got just everything I'm hearing now is that question. It's like when Teams came out, it's the same thing that's happening. Is what's the benefit? What's in it for me? What's the use case? How can I use it? And they brought out Viva Suite now as well. So because there's some additional licensing requirements for different elements of Viva, which I think they've just made it more confusing than they need to. for people who maybe aren't aware of licensing, I just think it can try to explain, okay, to this point you get it, and then these things you need to pay for, and break it down. But I think Viva Suite was a really good shout. So that includes all of the additional elements, topics, the organization and manager insights. So I think, that's going to be a useful one for people to keep an eye out on if you haven't already. Viva Suite.
Coincidentally, on the 8th of December, me and Sarah Fenner are presenting at Chirags M365 user group. And we're doing a kind of we're partnering up because Sarah's far more techie than me. So I'm going to be sharing kind of like the user adoption side of it. And I'm the visionary, she's the realist. So we're giving kind of like what you can really do. And she actually talks through the licensing, and I'll talk through kind of like the business benefits and the employee experience benefits of using Viva. So we're doing a bit of a tag tail, and we've just finished writing the presentation actually. So yeah, we're all ready for the 8th of December session. So
amazing.
Yeah, so it'd be a good one to we like to think it'd be a good one to join. So
it will be absolutely. It sounds amazing, but equally, Chirag's user group is fantastic. Chirag Patel, really great guy, independent Microsoft 365 consultant, and runs the Microsoft 365 UK user group. I think
UK user group, yeah,
on a monthly basis. And I've had the pleasure of being a guest on there myself a little while ago now. I must give Chirag a shout. Actually, I haven't spoken to him in ages. He's such a good guy.
Yeah, we've seen him recently twice, Commsverse and the South Coast Summit. So seen him recently.
Absolutely.
A couple of times.
Oh, this just breaks my heart because I say this all the time. I've not met anyone in the community really. Because my community journey started before COVID, after COVID kicked in really. So this is the only community I've known in my MVP life, shall we say. I went to events before that. I went to Ignite, the tour, and Future Decoded and all that sort of stuff. But it was before I was in this world. So I've probably walked past everyone a million times and not known who they are, which is quite heartbreaking. But so yeah, maybe Scottish Summit. I'm aiming for that one.
So Peter, where are you based?
I'm up in the northeast. I am. Yeah. I'm based in Teesside now, which is where my wife's from. We moved down to Teesside about 8 or 9 years ago now. I'm originally up from a bit further up the road in Newcastle, and we moved down here to be closer to my wife's parents because my youngest son Oliver's got quite severe autism, and they're a great support to us for that. So best thing I ever did though, because in terms of traveling up and down the country, it took quite a bit of a good hour off my journeys southwards down to London and other destinations. So it was great for that. But no, I've pretty much not left the house apart from school runs for my older son.
But yes, as you said, South Coast Summit it's February, isn't it? South Coast Summit.
A Scottish
Summit. Yeah.
Scottish Summit.
Not with all the summits.
Oh yeah.
I was Scottish supposed to be at South Coast Summit, and I felt really bad letting Aaron down because Aaron's such a great guy, and Nathan as well. And but he was great.
She's just showing off now.
I've got the water bottle.
Oh, you did. You did get some of the swag though, Peter, didn't you?
I know. I feel so.
You could like be there in spirit. Yeah.
I was meant to be involved, but then I had to withdraw late on due to family circumstances. But Aaron was such a superstar about it. I felt really bad, and I had what's the phrase? The FOMO on the day. I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm missing another one, but it'll happen, I'm sure.
Definitely. Speaking of South Coast Summit, I did want to ask about, because you presented in person at the last one. How are you with presenting? What are you a nervous presenter? Are you confident? Was it better in person or not? Is there anything you do to get over that fear?
Yeah, the presentation I gave was new, kind of like my own unique thinking around the business benefits of Viva, and it was quite early thinking, and I think it was too soon that I shared it at that particular event. I'm actually going to probably by the time this comes out I've already started, but I'm actually going to turn that presentation into an advent calendar I've just
Oh,
decided in the last couple of days that I'm going
cool.
to put this little snippet. So I've got kind of like about 15 business benefits that I'm going to share each day around the 5 modules. But I think I was too early with my thinking when I presented it. So I don't think I felt like I didn't do it justice, sort of thing, what I was talking about. It was too soon. But it was a wonderful event to be part of. Kat and I, we helped to bring together the adoption and change management stream. I managed to get invited along as speakers, 2 really lovely ladies that I've worked with, Amy Henderson, who's now at Avanade. I think she's actually moved somewhere to someone else, and also Danielle King, who works at Reed's Recruitment in the comms and employee engagement team. So we've managed to get those ladies to come along and present, and they were absolutely brilliant. So but yeah, I hate presenting. I prefer to just get on with the work and be behind the scenes, and I like to have chats like this, but yeah, to stand up in front of an audience, I'm absolutely terrified. So
as I mute then. So is there anything that you do to overcome those fears, or any advice you could give someone who's maybe in a similar situation? A few people that we've spoken to have said, oh, can be quite nerve-wracking. And so is there anything you would suggest?
I think
or just grin and bear it? And
yeah, I think I've learned now to just include some honest stories, have a good kind of like opening funny story at the beginning, just bring humor into it and bring your whole self into it. I think that's what I am learning about myself, is just to laugh at myself, really. But yeah, have some great stories that you can tell, and that's why the format I've used, that I just went through, that works, I think, really well for me. That I can, tell the story, and I'm being, it's honest, it's what I'm actually doing. Rather than just a whole load of bloody slides. So if I can have some fun with it, then I'm going to be more relaxed with it. So I think the Advent calendar, I'm really looking forward to sharing that, and I can reuse that material within workshops and presentations. So it is just being more relaxed with myself, being just trying to have some fun with it and bring some life to honesty to how I'm presenting, really. But yeah, I must admit, I used to be pretty terrified with what I was having, getting up. I mean, but I presented at Ignite in Orlando. I presented the first time, I think, was the GSK story with the IT guy that was based in North Carolina. We presented together, and yeah, we were absolutely crapping ourselves, sort of thing. It was really, 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 really frightening. So, but we did it, and everyone, all of those, what you realise is that so is everyone else. None of us are professional. None of us are professional presenters, You've got some people that are really shy, some real introverts that just want to sit there with their headsets on and, lock in. And Peter, you said your son suffers with autism, and they just want to, people like that just are geniuses, but they want to lock in and be left to their own devices, on their own devices. But then you've done some amazing work, and you've got to go and you get invited to present, and it's totally takes you out of your comfort zone. But it's when you get to the end of that presentation, what I've always found is, oh my God, I want to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. But
you
I describe
suddenly
myself
realise
as an
you've
introvert.
really enjoyed it. Yeah, you really enjoyed
completely.
it. Yeah,
but absolutely true. I can relate to that so much. I always describe myself as an introvert, but an introvert who never shuts up. Because once I get going, I get so nervous that I talk too quickly. I have to slow it down. And
isn't it ambivert?
Ambivert, is that what that is? Oh, I've learned.
Yeah, when you're introvert, extrovert, which is what I think I am.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I think I must be one of those.
Ambivert.
Ambivert. Fantastic.
Yeah, look that one up. Yeah.
Well,
I will. But the Advent calendar, I'm really looking forward to seeing the advent calendar. And to our audience, if you're watching this episode on day of release, it should be December the 3rd. I'm thinking this one is dropping with you.
Right, I'm
Maybe
really going to have to do it then. So.
Put you under pressure
We've committed you now. That's
yeah, I'm really going to have to get on
so
and
watch
do
out
it now.
for it.
So.
Watch out for it. I'm sure it'll be awesome, but absolutely brilliant. And if you're not watching this on the day of release, why not? Have a word with yourself.
Definitely. So we've had a lot of chat about technology and work life, but is there anything you do in your spare time? Any hobbies that you have? How do you relax after your productive day?
Well, Kat, it's all about the dogs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it Bertie?
Bruce.
Bruce,
Close,
close.
Lesley's messaging me on link tonight. Is your dog okay? Here's some medicine. I think we can.
Did you hear
yeah. I thought that was you for a second. I was like, oh, you're excited.
Yeah. So I've got an Izzy and a Ted. Izzy is a Pets Therapy approved volunteering dog. And before we went into lockdown, her and I once a week did our little volunteering through Pets Therapy, and went to a local retirement home that specialised in dementia care. And the little Teddy did Zoom meetings.
Oh, fantastic.
And we did that one with the Brighton, was it Sussex University, to cheer up the students that were stressed leading up to their exams. And I just basically got the dog, and he's very good. He just likes sitting on my lap, so I just got him kind of there, and he just stare at, he just kind of like quite be happy because I'm just holding him. He likes to be touched and everything. So Ted's really good on Zoom, and Izzy, she's bigger, so I wouldn't manhandle her like that, but she's great in person. And she ended up as a school dog for when we were doing Pets Therapy and when I was living in London. So yeah, and other than that, I cycle, swim, go to the gym, love podcasts, cooking, and live in Brighton, just like having fun down in Brighton. So
yeah, I wanted to mention I love Brighton. It's one of my favourite places. My wife
come
and I
down.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't take any persuading. Louise and I have been down to Brighton twice in the last 2 or 3 years before COVID, and we had wonderful sort of long weekends there. Really, really loved the place with the stony beach and the lanes, and
there's so much. And they're opening up. Well, we're recording this now. Well, about a month before it's actually gone out. But we've got a big Christmas market, the Brighton Christmas Festival opening up, and a massive Ferris wheel has come back into town. So that's going to open up on Friday. So yeah,
it's just so cool. Everyone's really edgy and really cool. You've got like the punks,
except me.
People are vintage. Lesley, you're cool. You got the dogs.
It's known as Brighton on. Well, it's known as Shoreditch on Sea or something like that, where it's similar for the vibe.
Very
Shoreditch.
Yeah. It is very much.
Everyone thinks they're a DJ. Yeah.
I love it though. It's Brighton's always a fun place. I was looking at moving to Brighton.
Everyone says that.
Yeah, looking to move, and then I looked at the prices
tomorrow
of the houses. And I was like, nah, I might just move to go to Wales. It's a bit cheaper. But I absolutely love Brighton. But I guess there's one question that we always ask on this show, which I said to you before, so I hope I've prepared you for it. We ask all of our guests if you've seen, and if you have, which is the better movie out of Terminator 1 or Terminator 2? So have you seen it? And if you have, which one do you prefer?
I've got no idea. I'm sorry.
Have you seen either of the films?
Probably a long, long time ago. And I did go out with a guy who was known as the Terminator because he looked a bit like Arnie Schwarzenegger, and he was a police officer, and he was known by everyone as the Terminator because he was so good at catching villains. And he was German. He was half German, so he looked like Arnie. That's all I know about the Terminator. And
I mean, that's pretty cool.
We're still really good friends now. Yeah. But
cool.
that's all I know about the Terminator. So he was, I was probably Terminator 1 then. I don't know.
Yeah, go on, get one in.
There you go.
The original's always best. Ask me about Grease. I could give you the whole. I can do verbatim Grease. And Grease 1 was definitely better than Grease 2.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Oh,
even though I do the second one, I really like Michelle Pfeiffer doing that song.
Oh, she's great.
That's the only thing I liked about it. But yeah, the first one is much better. So are you a big musical fan then?
Yes. Hang on.
Oh, are you going to bring him up?
Come in, Teddy.
Yay! I'm so excited.
Wow.
There he is.
Oh, I just want to cuddle. Oh, it's so cute. Hello.
So this is Teddy Bear Grylls.
Oh,
Teddy Bear Grylls, I love it. I think this is
Does
the
he
first
just eat
on the
lots
show,
of weird things?
He's very brave.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. I don't think we've had a dog on the show. I think this is a Cloud Conversation
Really?
first. I don't think you've shown
Do you know what?
before, have you?
I haven't, but I will. He's out for a walk at the
Yeah.
moment, but I will.
Well, he's out.
with my other half. And I got him a Santa hat, so I'll put his little Santa hat on and bring him up. But he's so cute. It just makes me miss my dog. He's only gone for a walk.
Back in a minute.
Back in a minute. I'm like, no,
he just sits here. Look, he's.
he's
But the
so
other one,
good
she
to
wouldn't
come.
sit. But yeah, he was great on Zoom meetings in lockdown. So.
Just chilling, like scratch my ears. Dogs give me so much joy. This has just lifted my mood, even just seeing like your dog. Oh my gosh. I just love
and I've also I put on LinkedIn a couple of days ago. I've got some new backgrounds for Teams meetings, and they were. I think you saw it, didn't you, Kat?
I did.
Oh, you did. You did.
It was
see it,
amazing.
Yeah.
It was just a dog. I was like, love it.
It was a real
absolutely love it.
It's a massive close up of his face, wasn't it?
I was like, I might just have to steal the idea.
Oh yeah,
Chris in the
definitely.
background, the Chris's background. So, oh my goodness.
And it's all about pets as therapy. It was all about turning frowns upside down. And if you start your team meeting, just as a joke with a fun background of your pet, but yeah, it might be a bit much. I mean, the size of the one I put up on LinkedIn, it was, I think I put it on Facebook. It was absolutely enormous. It was kind of like he'd filled up the whole screen. But look at him. But yeah, you could have it up there for just like a couple of minutes and then change it to something bland sort of thing, or blur.
Yeah,
it just starts. It's all about digital well-being. It's just giving us a bit of a giggle whilst we're in the flow of our work. So
definitely.
So important in these crazy old times we're living in right now. Never more important. 100%. But anyhow, definitely. I think we have taken up enough of your valuable time, Lesley. Thank you so much for being a guest on Cloud Conversations this week.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure for us, all our pleasure indeed. Before we go, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience to finish off with? I mean, I don't know how you can top the presence of your lovely dog there, who's Ted. Thank you,
Teddy.
I couldn't.
Teddy Bear Grylls. If he was a pedigree, that would be his name. Well, we'd just like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas.
Absolutely.
Yay!
Yeah. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Definitely.
And that is very, very appropriate.
Year.
Yeah, because we at Cloud Conversations here, we're going to take a little break from now. This is going to be our last episode of 2021. We're going to have a well-earned break for Christmas. So thank you all for your wonderful support. Thank you to all our guests who've joined us over the past, however long we've been doing it now, probably about 9 or so months. We love doing it so much. It's been so much fun. Get my teeth in. You think I'd be good at this by now, but I occasionally still freeze like that, which is embarrassing.
The dog's distracting, that's why.
But we keep it real. We don't edit these things out. We like to keep it real. But we'll be back in 2022. Not sure exactly when yet, but keep an eye out on our Twitter page. We'll post our sort of relaunch season 2, whatever you want to call it, and we'll be back bigger and better than ever. And our lovely third co-host Rue will be back with us too as well. So if you're watching this, Rue, take care of yourself, and we'll talk very soon. But Kat, any final words from you?
No, just have an amazing Christmas, everyone. As we all know, it's my favorite time of year, so I certainly will be. And I promise in 2022 you will see Bruce. So stay tuned.
Amazing. We will hold
you have
to
a
that.
fantastic birthday this weekend, because that's what we started with. Yeah, have a
Thank
great
you.
time in London.
I will.
And keep,
so much
keep
to
safe.
celebrate.
You're Christmassy
Amazing.
down there.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
all. We will see you in the new year, and take care, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.